All right, good morning. Monday, April 13th, Easter Monday, boys and girls. And today, 6th grade, I'm super excited that we're going to get to start our novel study on Becoming Naomi Leon. This is a book written by Pam Munoz Ryan. She is a great author. By now, she's got, I think, 6 books out, and they're all good. So Miss Simpson has read several of them. I haven't read the last 2, but I will tell you these books are really good, and I encourage you to read anything by her. But together, we are going to study and read this book, Becoming Naomi Leon. Now, if you had Mr. Redmond last year, you got to read Esperanza Rising, and many of you have told me you really enjoyed that book. It is a good book, and so rightly so, you should have enjoyed it. But I know that you are going to love this book as well. So I asked you last week to kind of study the book cover, try to get an idea about where she lives, what kind of a person you think she is, and why this little bitty lion might be here in the picture. One day last week, we went over what her name meant. So if you've forgotten that, go back and find that video. But I ask you as an assignment to research your name. Ask your family members who named you, what do the names that you have, what do they mean? Okay, I hope you had a chance to do that. So today we're going to launch right in. As I look at Naomi Leon sitting under this tree, she looks like a sweet young lady. I see a trailer back here, a little house trailer, so I'm thinking perhaps she lives in this trailer. Right now, Naomi doesn't look extremely happy in the cover of this book, but she looks to me like she's thinking. Maybe she's wishing. I'm not sure, but she's looking off in the distance. She doesn't look sad, but she does to me look like she is kind of in contemplation, thinking. Okay, we do see the little bitty lion right here. We know that one of her middle names, her whole name is Naomi Soledad Leon. Outlaw is her last name, okay, if you missed that part of the pre-study of the book. Leon is a Spanish origin word that means lion. Okay, and then we see this little bitty lion here. And I used to look at this little lion, and I used to think, perhaps Naomi is like a small lion, that we have that small lion in the picture to maybe represent, perhaps she has the heart of a lion, perhaps she has the mind of a lion, or the will, or the strength, or the courage of a lion. We're going to find all of that out when we begin to read this book. But right now, I see a beautiful young lady sitting under a tree. She doesn't look sad or unhappy, but she looks like she's thinking, like she's maybe remembering something, or she's thinking about her future. We're going to find that out when we read. And I do see this little travel trailer or house trailer back here that she might be living in, or maybe they're traveling. I don't know. We're about to find out. But here goes our study. Now, I will tell you in your packet, guys, all of you picked up, right? You're going to have these detective dictionary words that we're going to study as we go. Take good notes, because later on you will be tested over these vocabulary words. My brain was not trying to get the right words out there for a second. But on that note, let's get started. I want to change pages. Here we go. Here's our table of contents. I want you to notice that the table of contents, none of these start with a capital letter. And maybe we'll figure out why as we go. Maybe it's because these are small parts of Naomi's life. And at the end, perhaps it all comes together. Perhaps, perhaps not. We're going to find out. But this section, you see it's in 2 sections. We have a rabble of yesterdays. That's kind of thinking back, right? And a passel of todays. A rabble of yesterdays and a passel of todays. I kind of like that. It's looking forward, isn't it? Thinking about yesterday. moving forward into today. And as you look at the titles of each chapter, do you see all the different animals? Hummingbirds, ducks, hawks, swallows, squirrels, leopards. But look here at the very end, chapter 18, a pride of lions. I'm excited to get there with you guys. All right, but we're going to start with a paddling of ducks. This is where our book begins. In chapter 1, here we go. Becoming Naomi Leon, a rabble of yesterdays. Now, while I read out loud to you, I want you to follow along in your book. The book is, you should have picked it up when you got your packet. I always thought the biggest problem in my life was my name, Naomi Soledad Leon Outlaw. But little did I know that it was the least of my troubles, or that someday I would live up to it. It had been a double month of Sundays since Graham, Owen, and I were knitted together snug as a new mitten. I can point a stick, though, at the exact evening we started to unravel, at the precise moment when I felt like that old dog in an old Saturday morning cartoon, the one where the mutt wears a big woolly sweater and a fox runs up and pulls a hanging down piece of yarn. Then the fox races off with it, undoing the tidy stitches one by one. So, you know how Miss Simpson is. I can't just go on, but we're going to read quite a bit. But I have to stop even right here on our opening page, okay? I'm super excited about this. First of all, I didn't show you the last 3 chapters here of our book. They're on the second page, a brood of chicks, a crash of hippopotami, and a cry of hounds. But what I wanted to, I just love, excuse me, the way that Pam Munoz Ryan puts words together. And I don't want you to just read words on a page. I want you to stop throughout the entire book when you come to a part that you go, wow, look how she put these words together. They form a picture in my mind, or they make me think of something. And that's what the whole point of the author writing the way she does. Why did the author write it the way she wrote it? What was her purpose? What is her craft? Okay? So sorry. Y'all know my allergies are horrible. I'm not sick. I promise. I do this all day long. My allergies. Blah. Okay? But I just want you to see. First, she talks about her name. She thought her name was the biggest problem in her life. But she says, little did I know that it was the least of my troubles and that someday I'd live up to that name. But what I love here is that she said it had been a double month of Sundays. So it's been a month of Sundays. Sometimes when I haven't seen a relative in a really long time, they'll come up to me and say, it's been a month of Sundays since I've seen you. So a month of Sundays could mean it's been 4 weeks, because there's typically 4 Sundays in a month. It could just mean that it's been a long time since we've seen each other, okay? But then look what she does here. She says, it had been a double month of Sunday since Graham, Owen, and I. So we've already been introduced to 3 characters in this book. We have Graham, we have Owen, and we have Naomi Leon, all right? She said they were knitted together as snug as a new mitten. So a mitten, right, goes over your hand, covers your 4 fingers, and then your thumb sticks out, right? So, I mean, it's covered, but it's separate from the 4 fingers. And knitting together means putting yarn together, right, to make something. So they put yarn together and they made a mitten. And all that yarn is very snugged up together, isn't it? Because you don't want a mitten with a bunch of holes in it, right? That wouldn't do its job of keeping your hand warm, would it? So here they are, Graham, Owen, and Naomi Leon. They're all knit together. Oh, I love this. I can point a stick at the exact evening we started to unravel. Wow, that is just so, that she just did such a great job of putting that together. So here they are. They're together And then things start to come undone. All right, so here we go. Then the fox races off with it, undoing the tidy stitches one by one. Pretty soon the poor dog is bare to its skin, shivering. Oh, let's get this to change page. Here we go. Shivering, and all that had kept it warm is nothing more than a bedraggled string. Oh, you know I love that word right there, don't you? All right, here we go. Chapter 1, A Paddling of Ducks. There we were, minding our lives with the same obedience as a clock ticking. A few weeks earlier, the sun had switched to its winter bedtime. So even though it was early evening, the sky was dark as pine pitch. Don't let things like this go past you, boys and girls. I'm going to stop. The sun had switched to its winter bedtime. What happens in the winter, right? Our days get shorter, the nights get longer, it gets dark early. All right, here we go. That meant that Graham, Owen, and I couldn't sit outside on the white rock patio. Instead, we had to crowd around the drop-down table in the living room/kitchen of the baby beluga. A beluga is a whale. That was what Graham called our Airstream trailer. She was the absolute expert at calling things what they resembled and thought it looked like a miniature whale next to all the double wides at Avocado Acres Trailer Ranch. So they live in a trailer park. The trailer park was called this because it was surrounded on 3 sides by the largest avocado ranch in Lemon Tree, California. The name Lemon Tree did not appeal to Graham's sense of description because, as she pointed out, there wasn't a stick of citrus in sight. A giant plastic lemon did sit on a pedestal at the Spray and Play, a combination car wash, deli, playground, and one of our favorite places. That lemon was a tribute to the fact that there used to be fruit orchards in San Diego County before the builders came and put a house on every scratch of spare dirt, except for the avocado grove, which was smack in the middle of town and the last countrified land in Lemon Tree. We had already put away the dinner dishes from Wednesday chicken bake, and Owen started racing through his second-grade homework like a horse on a tear. People were usually fooled by his looks and thought he was low in school due to being born with his head tilted to one side and scrunched down next to his shoulder. It had straightened a little after 3 surgeries at Children's Hospital, but he still talked with a permanent frog voice because of something inside being pinched. One of his legs was shorter than the other, so he walked like a rocking horse. But other than that, he was just fine. Contrary to people's first opinions, he got the best grades in his class. It kind of goes to prove we shouldn't judge a book by its cover. We shouldn't look at somebody and decide what kind of a person they are based on the way they look. Graham, in her usual polyester pantsuit and running shoes, was doing her weekly hair set, rolling what little blue hair she had on those bristle curlers that require no hairpins. I was not being mean about her hair. It really looked blue in the sunlight. And I mulled over my sorry situation at school, which was 3 boys in my 5th grade class who had decided that Outlaw was the funniest last name in the universe. They did not give me an ounce of peace. Okay, guys, I just saw one of our vocabulary words, the word mulled. In your packet, you'll see that that's the first word in your dictionary detective packet, okay? I want you to use a dictionary to find out what this word means. But before you grab your dictionary, I want you to look at it and see if you can figure it out on your own. I mulled over my sorry situation at school, which was 3 boys in my 5th grade class who had decided that Outlaw was the funniest last name in the universe. Oh, boys, we know y'all can be silly, right? Okay, so she mulled it over. When I mull things over, so here I am. I'm going to pretend like I'm a young lady in 5th grade, and I'm mulling over a situation at school. Perhaps I'm contemplating, or I'm trying to make a decision about what to do. But no matter what, I am doing what? I'm thinking about it, right? Okay? So I do want you to grab your dictionary. I want you to look that up, and I want you to fill in that blank next to the word mold. Here we go. Have you robbed any banks lately? Was one of their favorite sayings, along with jumping out at me, throwing their arms in the air and yelling, "Is this a stick-up?" My teacher, Mrs. Morimoto, said to ignore them, but I had tried, and it did no good. I was sped up, so I was making a list of what I could say back to them that might be embarrassing. I wrote across the top of my notebook page, "How to get boys to stop making fun of my name." Oh, she's really giving it some thought. That's excellent. I scooted my book in front of Graham to see if she had any ideas. "Naomi, I have lived with that name since I married your great-grandpa, rest his soul, almost 50 years ago, and I am due proud. Besides, there are worse things in life." All right, so we know that Graham is Naomi's great-grandma, right? They call her Graham, but she said she married her great-grandpa, Naomi's great-grandpa, so that must mean that this is great-grandma, all right? So, and when she says rest his soul, what does she mean? That's right. Great-grandpa has gone on. He's passed away. He's died, and he's no longer with them. So Grandma's telling her, "Honey, there's a lot worse things in the world than some boy making fun of your name." And she's had to live with it all these years. 50 years she's lived with that last name. If you didn't see my video from last week, I also had a friend that lived in Bryan, and she has since passed on just recently, but her last name was Outlaw. All right, here we go. Let's move my little floating head here out of the way. Here we go. "But you don't go to Buena Vista Elementary," I said. She laughed. "That's true, but I can tell you that boys have not changed an iota, and they are hard to humble. You know my true feelings on that subject? How about writing, 'Those boys will not bother me'?" Graham said that when you thought positive, you could make things happen. And when it did happen, it was called a self-prophecy. If you wanted to be the best speller in the class, you said to yourself over and over, "I am the best speller in the class." And then before you knew it, you were practicing and becoming it. It was sort of like magic. And Graham believed it to her bones. But it didn't always work the way I hoped. At one time, Owen and I were the only children in the trailer park. I thought positive every day for a month for more kids at Avocado Acres, but all that moved in was a family with a teenager and a brand new baby. Graham insisted my positive thinking had succeeded, but I had been greatly disappointed. Before I could write down Graham's suggestion, Owen sneezed, and it was a big one, the kind that sprinkled spittle and left his eyes all teary. "Owen, you got it on my page," I said, soothing my paper, which only smeared the wet spots. "Sorry," he said, and then he sneezed again. "Company's coming twice," said Graham, matter of fact. It was another of her Oklahoma notions, and she had a million of them, that she believed whole heart. This one being, if a body sneezed, someone would pay a visit. "We already know for sure that Fabiola's coming over," said Owen. Fabiola Morales lived with her husband Bernardo, just a stone's throw away in the middle of the avocado grove. Bernardo took care of the 300 trees, and in return, he didn't have to pay rent on their tiny house. Fabiola and Graham were newly retired from Walker Gordon Department Store, where they had worked for 35 years as seamstresses, doing alterations with their sewing tables face to face. If that wasn't enough familiarity, Fabiola came over every night, Monday through Friday, to watch Wheel of Fortune. So far, Graham and Fabiola had watched 743 during the week episodes without missing one. It was their claim to fame. Wow, it sounds like that they have a really nice friendship. They worked 35 years across from each other sewing for a department store. That's pretty neat, isn't it? And it sounds like they're probably best friends. Here we go. Well then, Fabiola counts for one, said Graham, patting a curler in place. I wonder who'll be the other. I looked at Owen and rolled my eyes. A fly zooming in would fulfill Graham's prediction. Maybe Mrs. Maloney, said Owen. Mrs. Maloney was 88 and lived in the double wide next door. She came out every afternoon to water her cactuses, rocks, and cement bunnies, and only then did she ever come over for a visit. Graham said we could count on Mrs. Maloney for two things in life. One was wearing the same pink checked cotton robe every day. I suspected she had a dozen hanging in her closet. And the other was going to bed at 6 in the evening. Nope, it won't be Mrs. Maloney, I said. It's past 6. Chewing on the end of my pencil, I got back to my list, which Graham said was one of the things I did best. I had all kinds of lists in my notebook, the shortest being things I am good at, which consisted of soap carving, worrying, and number 3, making lists. There was my regular and everyday worries, which included Graham was going to die because she was old. Let's move my floating head. Owen would never be right. I will forget something if I don't make a list. 4, I will lose my lists. And 5, abominations. I made lists of splendid words, types of rocks, books I read, and unusual names. Not to mention the list I had copied, including baby animal names, breeds of horses, and my current favorite, animal groups from the complete and unabridged animal kingdom with over 200 photographs. Wow, our friend Naomi Leon likes to make lists. Miss Simpson is a list maker too, but not quite to that extent. So let's start here on this paragraph. Mr. Marble, the librarian and the absolute best person at Buena Vista Elementary, gave me the book yesterday when I walked into the library at lunchtime. He said, Naomi Outlaw, he always calls me by both names. Today is your lucky day. I have a treasure for you, and I've already checked it out on your card. I give this to you with a flourish. Then he scooped the book into his palms, knelt down on one knee, and held it out to me as if it was a box of jewels. I added flourish to my splendid words list. Mr. Marble allowed me and 2 other students to eat lunch at one of the oval library tables every day. It was breaking school rules to eat there, but Mr. Marble didn't mind. He just smiled at us, straightened his bow tie, and said, Welcome to the sanctuary. Sanctuary also went straight to the splendid words. John Lee was one of the library lunch students. His parents owned Lemon Tree Donuts. He was the roundest boy at Buena Vista Elementary and one of the nicest. The other was Mimi Messmaker. Her name was on my unusual names list, along with Delaney Pickle, Brian Bearbrother, and Phoebe Lively. Mimi didn't hang out with all the other girls in our grade either, the ones who were always comparing makeup and going to sleepovers. She was nobody special at school, just like me, but she didn't know it. She had no use for me and once whispered trailer trash when I walked by. After that, I never said a word to her, and that suited us both. Naomi, said Graham, is there a page in your notebook titled Ways to Annoy My Graham? Because if there is, I'd appreciate it if you'd add your unruly bangs to that list. I quickly reached up and corralled a triangle of hair hanging in my eyes. Look here, guys. Here's our second vocabulary word, corralled. I quickly reached up and corralled a triangle of hair hanging in my eyes. So if she had bangs, which Miss Simpson does not, but I'll create these crazy looking bangs right here, okay? So her grandma says her bangs are annoying her. So most kids that have bangs, they're right up here, right above your eyebrows, typically, right? So she quickly corralled, right, her unruly bangs, a triangle of hair, right here, triangle of hair hanging in her eyes, okay? I was trying to let my hair grow all one length, but in order to keep my bangs pinned back, I needed 3 clips on each side. Graham had taken to calling me brown, shaggy dog because of my wild mop and my predisposition to brownness, eyes, hair, and skin. Oh, now we know a little something about Naomi Leon. She has brown hair, brown eyes, and brown skin. Are we beginning to be able to form a picture of her a little bit? Maybe. All right. I took after the Mexican side of the family, or so I'd been told, and even though Owen was my full-blooded brother, he took after the Oklahoma lot. He didn't have brown eyes like me, but with fair skin and blonde hair in a bowl haircut that Graham called a Dutch boy. Due to my coloring, Owen called me the center of a peanut butter sandwich between 2 pieces of white bread, meaning him and Graham. Okay, that's kind of sweet. So we got Graham, we got Owen, and in between is the peanut butter, which is Naomi. To me, that's kind of sweet because that means they're holding all together. This is a family that sticks together. Okay, don't let this vocabulary word over here, corral, don't let this get past you. Remember to stop your video when you need to. Look up your word, write your definition down in your packet. All right? Miss Simpson messed with her hair, and now I just looked at myself. I look a mess. All right, here we go. Thank you for making your old granny happy, said Graham, tucking a stray lock of hair behind my ear. You're not that old, I said. She laughed. Naomi, I am your great-grandma, and according to most folks, I had no business raising you and Owen. Those who carried gossip said I had 1 foot in the grave and should have known better, but I took you on like spring cleaning anyhow. The joke was on everyone else because I got the prizes. That was my lucky day when I got you two. Owen looked up from his binder. Today's my lucky day. Guess what's one of my spelling words? Bicycle! Any coincidence in Owen's life, such as wanting a new bicycle and having the word show up on his spelling list, made him feel lucky. Whistling, he started writing bicycle over and over on a piece of paper. Graham finished rolling her hair, leaving lines of white scalp staring at us. My clown is head on. My clown head is on, she announced. Owen and I never argued with that description because the yellow and purple curlers did give that effect. Graham clicked the television remote to find the tail end of the nightly news. I closed my notebook, giving up for now on my list and knowing full well I wouldn't be able to say boo to those boys anyway. I reached into the built-in cabinet above my head, pulled out the plastic salad bowl holding my latest soap carving. When Owen and I first came to live with Graham, I had slipped into being silent, and my hands shook all the time. I was too young to remember what caused it all, but Graham's practical solution was to keep my mind and hands busy. Soap carving had been Bernardo's idea, and he said I was born to it. He would work in his shed doing his hobby, making wood boxes and little miniature bookshelves, then painting them every bright color with scenes of little towns and sunsets. It was art from his city, Oaxaca, far away in Mexico. Now, I apologize if I am not saying this name correctly. I'm going to try to find a translation or a pronunciation online. I think it is said Oaxaca, but I'm probably extremely wrong. So if you're at home and you're watching this video and your mom or your dad know how to say this word, have them send me a little video with you in it and you tell me what this word is, right? Tell me how to pronounce this word. Okay, it's a city in Mexico. And I would sit next to him with a bar of soap and a carving tool. Graham was nervous to death about me using a knife, so Bernardo started me out with a bent paper clip. As I proved my worth, I graduated to a plastic knife, a butter knife, and finally a paring knife. I picked up my partially carved duck with my knife from the pile of slippery shavings in the bottom of the bowl. I had already finished 2 other ducks, each a little smaller than the other, but I wanted a third for the shelf above the kitchen sink. I was never content to carve one of anything, preferring at least 2 or 3 for a companionship of lions or a circle of bears. I pulled the knife across the bar of nature's pure white. The soap sloughed off easily into the bowl, looking like shredded white cheese. I scraped in an arc, finishing off the curve of the back and up to the tail. The dry film on my hands felt like a thin glove, and every few minutes I put my palms up. Where'd we go? Did I lose my page that quickly, Miss Simpson? Really? Let's see. But I wanted a third shelf. Hold on. Miss Simpson sure lost her place, didn't she? I picked up the partially carved duck and knife from the pile of slippery shavings. I wanted a third for the shelf, preferring at least 2 or 3 for a companionship of lions or circle of bears. I don't know what happened to our page. It changed wording on the page. Technology, guys, right? Because I was supposed to turn the page when I said palm. The dry film on my hands felt like a thin glove, and every few minutes I put my palms up to my nose to take a whiff of a smell that reminded me of being a baby. "Done with spelling," said Owen, closing his books. He came over and stood next to me watching. "Naomi, how do you know what to carve?" "I imagine what's inside and take away what I don't need," I said, not looking up. Slowly I added the finishing touches of the duckling, scratching out the appearance of feathers with the pointy end of the knife. I loved this part of carving, the etching and the grooves that made the figure look true to life. I was getting ready to level the bottom so it would sit flat and not wobble on the shelf, but I didn't get one more pull of the blade before someone knocked on the door. Okay, this is where we're going to stop for the day. If you have your book, I want you to get Miss Simpson, start all over. I want you to get those 2 vocabulary words from your packet, mold and corralled, and look those up and get those written down on your page there, and we'll go over them, okay? Tomorrow we'll start chapter 3. We're going to do chapter 1, 2, and 3 this week, okay? So we're going to move kind of fast through this book over the next 3 weeks. Now, if we get to go back to school, you'll bring your book to school with you, and we'll continue to do the novel study in class, okay? If at the end of 3 weeks they tell us we don't quite get to go back to school yet, we'll continue the novel study online, okay? I miss you guys. Until I see you tomorrow, take good care of yourself, take good care of one another, and I will see you tomorrow.